We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. If you're joining on YouTube, thank you so much. Go ahead and hit the like, subscribe, and bell notification if you can. Show some support for your boys. If you're following us on Twitter at Three Man Rush Podcast, if you are joining in that platform, thank you guys so much as well. Go ahead, drop some comments, drop some questions. Can't wait to answer some stuff and talk to you guys. But welcome. I'm your host, Landon Oliver, here with my co host, Andrew Scott, and down at the bottom, my other co host, Big Jared Holly. What is going on, boys? Week 14 getting started, but week 13 is in the books now. A few weeks away from playoffs starting already, that quick. How's everybody doing?
Well, I'm glad week 13 is behind me. Outside of that, pretty good, my friend. I'm ready for week 14. New adventures in the NFL.
It's been a long time since I've been in this area of my favorite NFL team's season being done at this point in the season. It's familiar territory because I lived here for a very long time, but it's been a while since I've been here, so it's kind of painful to be back. But I just keep reminding myself that a Super Bowl title was not that far in my past, so that has made this a little bit more bearable
Well,
than in years past.
You got some good news today, man.
Well,
Good is debatable.
yeah,
Hope is on its way.
we got news. But I mean, that being said, too, I'm out of it. I can't wait for the Colts don't play week 14, so I don't have to deal with that mess this week.
I would kill for the Rams to have another bye week.
It's a late one for sure. I've had 13 weeks of having to watch this team, but I finally get a break. And not only that, we jumped up to the 9th overall pick in the draft because we suck so much. Yeah, so it's draft season. We're getting hype. Top 10, man. Finally get that quarterback. Maybe a CJ Stroud drops, huh? Maybe a Will Levis. Huh? Maybe a
I could definitely see Will being there. Yeah. Definitely could see Richardson being there.
Yeah, so
the Rams have a top 4 pick, but they actually don't. But but I personally do not give a shit because I will trade a World Series. I would take that too. I would trade a Super Bowl for a top 4 pick all day, every day. So I can live with that. I hope the Lions enjoy that pick. I have no doubt that Brad Holmes, being the smart man he is, will make the best pick for the franchise. And it'll all work out for it. What's up, Zach? I'm sitting here. You can tell I got baseball in my mind with the winter meetings going on and things like that. I'm sitting here saying World Series. That's I've been in baseball mode all day. So
hashtag tank for Levis.
What if the Colts, like the last time there were slogans for the Colts to tank seasons, it was suck for luck, and then he retired how many years into the league? Maybe the franchise is snake bit Landon at this point.
Well, what me and you have talked about it before. It was what do we call it? The curse of Manning.
The Manning curse.
Yeah.
They put that statue out there just to humble the gods a little bit more. It's rough, man. It's hard being a Colts fan. They make me hate football. They really do. The only good thing about Sunday night was I got to turn it off and go to bed early and get more sleep before work on Monday.
If you turned it off a little bit early enough, you probably thought they were doing good. You were like, oh man, 13 minutes,
I made it
12 minutes left in the game, 2-point game. You're like,
third touchdown, I was done. My stepdad was calling me like, are you watching this? He's a big Cowboys fan. I'm like, I was, and I turned it off, hung up on him, and went to bed.
Yeah, I woke up Monday morning in shock because I had a company holiday party on Sunday night, and so like I went and had dinner, had a few drinks, watched some of the game in my hotel that night, and I think it was like the third quarter. I ended up falling asleep. Was like the last thing I remembered, and I was like, it was a like pretty close game whenever I fell asleep. So that was
21-19.
Being the 21-19. So I mean, if you
being the degenerate I am, like the first thing that through my mind whenever I woke up was like, man, that was a pretty good game I fell asleep on last night. What was the score? And I checked the score and I was like, what the fuck? Like, how did it go how did it go south that fast?
Turnovers,
line, immobile quarterback. There's Landon can break it down
Colts
even better.
offensive line playing good too. How about that? Only allowed a few sacks. Offensive line only allowed 2 sacks on the day. Micah Parsons basically shut out by a rookie left tackle.
33 points.
Good for that's Raymond, right? The rookie left
it
tackle.
is. Yeah, he's playing good football right now.
Good for him. Then if you can have Micah Parsons have a quiet day,
actually made a tweet about it. I can pull up some of the numbers here if I can get through.
I like this glass half full of Landon. I really do. Like you make me
Parsons, Micah Parsons on the night was only held to one. He only had 1 quarterback pressure on the entire night. 0 sacks. His 4th worst pass rushing grade of the entire season came in that game. Bernard Ryman, 0 sacks allowed, 0 hurries allowed, and only 1 pressure. That was the 1 pressure to Parsons.
Is that common? Is that common for Parsons to pressure to come from the left tackle?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually he lines up on the left side. I mean, they move him around.
He goes
but really they line him up on kind of the weak link. So yeah, that's
Oh, you thought wrong, motherfucker.
Yeah, dude, he's playing good right now.
Good for him.
Yeah. So yeah, he's playing good ball. The Colts offensive line's really played good ball over the last, I would say, like 4 or 5 weeks. It's just you have a quarterback that panics in the pocket, turns the ball over, his arm is shot. So Josh Jacobs to the Panthers last week. He goes to Chicago.
They're gonna have an opening. I say opening. Khalil Herbert is going to be there, still on a team-friendly contract, but he is dealing with an injury. David Montgomery, free agent to be. Josh Jacobs, free agent to be. Somebody is going to pay Josh Jacobs, man. We talked about that last week. Like with the year he's having, somebody's going to pay the man. I don't know who it's going to be, but somebody's going to pay the man.
They're gonna really regret it in about 2 or 3 seasons.
Oh, they sure will. Yeah, absolutely.
If you're new to the show, we are team #never pay running back. That's part of the brand here.
Josh Jacobs is my favorite running back in the NFL because he won me money. That's the reason.
He's won a lot of people money this year.
He won Jared a lot of money, not a small amount of money either.
Man, he just everyone has wrote him off, and he just keeps us shoving it down everyone's throat every week.
He ain't right back.
Nope.
That contract year. Should have.
He needs to go to
decline the 5th-year option. How bad does that make him feel now? Declining the 5th-year option.
I know, it's crazy.
It still would have been a nice little price tag to pay a running back. So if they knew they never had the intentions of paying Jacobs, I'm sure they probably don't regret it.
Yeah, but now you might have.
Are the Raiders still in the picture? Are the Raiders still technically? They're not eliminated yet, right?
Technically, they're still in it. They're 5-7, and right now they're the 10th seed. The only 2 teams outside of the playoffs that are in front of them. They got the Patriots and the Chargers are both 6-6, who are in front of them, and then you've got the Jets are 7-5. They're the 7th seed. I don't think they'll catch, and we'll talk about the AFC playoff picture in a little while, but I don't think they'll catch whatever AFC East team finishes second. So between Buffalo and Miami, I don't think they'll catch whatever team finishes second in that division, but. Right now, there's 3 AFC East teams that are in the playoffs, and I think there's a decent chance possibly that one of those teams gets caught. Like the Jets could possibly end up getting caught and passed by somebody. I don't think it's the Patriots, but I do think the Chargers at 6-6, the Raiders at 5-7, the Browns at 5-7. I do think there are some teams that could possibly, I think that 7th seed is still in play.
Yeah.
So it'll be really interesting to see how that
Not
plays
for the
out.
Browns.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson sure the fuck did not look good.
I know, it was great.
That was the best part of Sunday, to be honest with you.
Which I don't know what else we could have really expected. It's been 2 years since he's played football. I didn't have high hopes for him coming into the game by any means, so I wasn't necessarily shocked that it didn't look good.
Oh, I don't.
I also wasn't upset that it didn't look good either, but
I was giddy.
I hope he's dusted. I really do. I hope.
I don't think he is, to be honest, though.
I doubt it.
Like,
Nah.
I think there are worse days ahead for the Deshaun Watson haters, and I say that not to knock people that are like preying on Deshaun Watson's downfall, because I don't blame you a bit for doing so. I'm just saying I think that there is better football ahead for Deshaun Watson, and it's just kind of a matter of time, because he was, last time we saw him before all this happened, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I don't think he just completely loses that. It'll take time to get into rhythm and to get comfortable with the new team, new system, new coach, things like that. But they've got a great offensive line. They got a great running game. They have good enough weapons between Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku, Harrison Bryant, David Bell. They've got good enough weapons and everything like that around him to succeed, to where I think eventually he does figure it out. I don't know if it'll be in time for the Browns to be able to make the playoffs this year, but it's only a matter of time, I feel like.
What a weird ass game too. They didn't score a single offensive touchdown and still won by 2 scores.
It kind of speaks to how bad Houston truly is and how much they really do need that number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. Yep. I'm not gonna get into it, but there is other stuff to get into, and that is one of Drew's favorite prospects coming out of the draft, especially after he showed out as a rookie and had a good sophomore season. Drew's been sticking up for him for a while now. The newest member of your Los Angeles Rams, Baker Mayfield, everybody.
Wait. Hold up. Hold up.
Los Angeles Rams. Let's get it cracking.
Okay, so we're going to clear this up right now, because I'm not letting that shit go. I had Baker Mayfield as quarterback 3 coming
on the
into
current
the draft.
roster of Rams quarterbacks.
Also accurate, yeah. I had Sam Darnold QB1, gross, Lamar Jackson QB2, and then Baker Mayfield QB3 of that rookie class. And then after Baker came
Baker
in,
Mayfield better than Josh Allen? I mean, you're right there.
Drew froze. He couldn't handle anymore.
He got to him. He couldn't do it.
It broke him.
No, I was also on the big Sam Darnold guy.
And granted, with what Baker did, down the stretch his rookie season, for like taking the Browns to the playoffs, I did feel like that Baker probably deserved Rookie of the Year that year for everything that he did. Beyond his rookie season, I really haven't had anything nice to say about Baker Mayfield. I mean, he tried to ruin Odell Beckham Jr., and if you don't believe me, his dad put it on tape. So,
the tape does not lie. The tape never lies.
Don't argue with me, argue with the film, because OBJ's dad put together one hell of a film session. But, yeah, I mean, this is a whole lot of nothing to me. It's just a whole lot of, hey, why not? I mean, Matthew Stafford's done for the year. John Wolford and Bryce Perkins, they are what they are in terms of quarterbacks that are going to be playing for the Rams the rest of the year. If somehow they're able to squeeze anything out of Baker and some other team decides to take a shot on him, he would factor into the comp pick formula. So the Rams, who have lived off comp picks for the last 3-4 years, with selling all their picks, they would be awarded a comp pick if a team takes a shot on Baker based on what he does these last few weeks. So, I mean, that alone is worth I don't even want to say risk, because there is no risk, but like just the shot for grabbing him off waivers is worth that in itself, just to see if you can get an extra pick out of it. And I was, so at first I was like, man, I kind of hope that the Rams troll the 49ers and they go put a claim in for him because they're in front of the 49ers, and the 49ers need a quarterback because of the Jimmy G injury, which we'll talk about next, and, things like that. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, man, like, I feel like it would be better if the 49ers just picked up Baker, because I feel like that's more of a sabotage job in itself, is having Baker on your roster than it is not having Baker on your roster. So it's like I was rooting for the 49ers to get Baker Mayfield. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it means nothing. It's a lost season.
Which
There are
the
multiple
49ers, they
offensive
didn't even
line.
put in a claim in.
No, they didn't. Which to their which they shouldn't have done because Baker Mayfield is trash. But
I think he
uh,
would have been a distraction too for a team that's got a playoff
yeah, I agree. I mean, look,
aspirations.
the
I
Rams
thought,
have
I thought
multiple.
Brock Purdy showed some good stuff as well. So
I think
Yeah,
they're gonna ride him out. I
agree.
think that's who they're gonna ride with.
I think that's who they'll ride with, but I didn't like what I saw from him in terms of like his off-target throw percentage and things like that. I don't think he was very good, but um, I don't know. I mean, it's like Cooper Cup, Allen Robinson done for the year, multiple offensive linemen done for the year. Like, what do you really have to gain for the rest of this season? Grab
Allen
him.
Robinson was done after week 1, in my opinion.
Yeah, he had like one or two other good weeks, and that was about it. But I mean, it's a lost season for the Rams. They have nothing to gain out of this season. So see if you can get a comp pick. But this is, I know it's technically news, but to me, this is really not news very much.
I think it's news to where we're at with Baker Mayfield, though. I mean, you got a team that's literally fighting to get into playoffs and they didn't even take a bid at into
the
bringing.
Rams were the only team to put a claim in on him.
Yeah, that says a lot.
And that's literally Les Snead. Like, man, I'm addicted to the comp pick formula. Please let this guy do a few things so that we can get an extra fifth round pick out of him. That's all it is to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little intrigued by seeing Sean McVay because I mean, like there's a lot of things that fall apart for Baker, but he is mobile. He does have a big arm. He is able to push the ball down the field. And
This sounds like a guy that would fit in with Indianapolis, and they're scouting for quarterbacks at this point.
He would probably be better than what they have right now, if I'm being 100% honest. But I am curious to see what because if you can't show at least any sign of a modicum of good quarterback play with Sean McVay as your head coach, then yeah, it's not good for you at all. You're likely out of the league, I would imagine. So this is a good chance for him to audition with, a talented head coach that's able to scheme some stuff. And, he does have the physical tools. It's really just been more mental errors that really kind of have sabotaged him. But, I am intrigued, honestly. I'll be watching for sure. I will 100% watch that game, and I'll probably watch the film on it too afterwards. So
it's at least something to watch for, which is more than what could have been said about the Rams offense prior to this happening.
Exactly. So
you think he starts next week?
I think there's a decent. I think there's a decent shot of it. I mean, and they play Thursday night football, so you're talking about like
very short turnaround,
a 2-night turnaround. But like they said today that they sent Baker the playbook so that he could study it on the flight to LA, and he was like en route to LA tonight. Like they're moving this thing as fast as possible. So
well, see, like the good news is like most playbooks, especially to like in the NFL today, they're all very similar to one another. Like as far as like Baker's, like with Kevin Stefanski, like he's played in a West Coast system before. Like
Wofford got hurt or whatever too.
But then there's also too like what separates the Rams, I think, from some of the other teams. Outside of that Washington, that coaching staff from the Shanahan tree there in Washington. Not Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan's tree. But a lot of it there is they have a lot more window dressing and a lot more motion than teams do. But at the end of the day, it's still a West Coast system and it's still West Coast concepts. And those are concepts that Baker has shown he can succeed at. And really, you're just learning the terminology more than anything. You're trying to learn the protection calls and you're trying to learn the terminology. And, I don't think 2 days is definitely enough to do that. I don't think 2 months is long enough to do that, to the level you would need to have, actual success. But I think, it's at the end of the day, I mean, football is football. Like there's not really, the main part of like whenever you change teams, like learning the playbook and all that stuff, like these guys are this is their life. They've dedicated years to this. Like you can learn a playbook, that's fine. Right? What really sabotages guys whenever they move on is he has no reps with the wide receivers. He has no knowledge of really their protection calls and the way they run their offensive line. He hasn't even handed the ball off. Even that, like you develop a rhythm with your running back and you learn, these guys need to learn your cadence as well, for the snap counts and stuff. Like none of that stuff is going to happen at all. But, at the end of the day, I mean, football is football. So, I mean, like you could learn the playbook, something that might mean, you have a call that, a jet, in one call, it could be jester in another call, or it could be jackrabbit in another system. And it's all the exact same thing. It all means the same thing, but it's all different terminology. So, I mean, that's something that like it'll take him some time, but I think he can get that down. But it's really just the lack of reps with guys that it's going to be tough.
And another thing working in his favor is they get to play the Las Vegas Raiders on Thursday, and
The red hot Las Vegas Raiders.
the offense is red hot. The defense,
their defense isn't red hot.
yeah, the defense that Baker will have to face,
unless you mean like a red hot steaming pile of monkey.
Dude, they're scoring points though.
Oh yeah, no, the Rams defense definitely has to be on notice, and with what Jacobs and Devontae Adams is doing right now. But the Rams offense, on the other hand, I don't think they're necessarily shaking at the matchup. Now, that's not to say they're going to have success because there's so many moving parts and there's a lot going on right now.
I was going to say.
Let's not forget.
If there's a piece of the Raiders that you're intimidated by, it's certainly not the defense.
They're the Indianapolis Colts, with first time ever college head coach Jeff Saturday went into Las Vegas and beat the Raiders. So
right.
I'm not saying I'm sitting here terrified of the Raiders, for sure.
You gonna pick the Rams to win that game?
I mean, I'll have to think more on it, but I don't think it's a crazy thing to think of.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they won the game.
I'm not shocked if anybody.
I also wouldn't be shocked if they lost the game.
Yeah, like I'm not. I mean, it's the NFL. I'm never shocked if anybody beats anybody on any given. Even the Texans have won a game. So
at the end of the day, even with the Raiders getting hot recently, I still don't buy into them being a legitimate playoff contender. So it's like, to me, this is just a matchup of two teams that their outlook doesn't really matter all that much. And
I was gonna say, they don't matter.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's how I look at it. So I'm not getting too worked up about this game, and I'm not getting too worked up about Baker going to LA. It's news because it's LA and it's news because it's Baker, but I don't really think it's all that much to be like. I don't think there's that much noise to really make of.
I'm kind of curious though, Drew, what you think of the news about Stafford and that's a potential career-threatening injury.
Yeah, that I'm really scared, man. I don't know what to make of it. Thankfully, he'll have a very long off season now, considering of the weeks he's had off this year, and his season's over with. So the extended off season he'll have, I really hope they'll be able to figure things out. Because that whole spinal cord and neck injuries and things like that, they're saying that could possibly be career threatening, and
that's what got Peyton was the spinal fusion.
Yeah.
Sean McVay, in a very short answer, they asked him if it would be a career threatening thing, and he just very shortly said no. And granted, if you don't have confirmed news that it is career threatening, you're not going to come out and say, yeah, it is. So, with nothing.
I remember 2011, Peyton's going to play.
So I would expect McVay to say as such, right now. But I'm scared, man, considering Stafford's injury history, especially with back and neck injuries and things like that. And now this coming up. I'm really nervous, man. I'm worried for Stafford
Right.
I
because
was going to say, yeah, at the end of
he
the day,
just finally got into a situation that's
yeah,
beneficial for him. And granted, he made the most out of it year one,
he got one. Yeah. His
but
wife
now,
is very big on his health too.
yeah, but
Like
she's
in,
had her own health issues. Like
Yeah, I
they've
was
had,
gonna say that's
this ain't going to
between
be it won't be a drawn out Tom Brady situation. If Stafford
no,
retired, I wouldn't be shocked.
yeah, no, and I think that that's not completely out of the cards, and it does make me nervous as a Rams fan. But at the end of the day, I just hope that Stafford is able to make the most out of his health, and that the game doesn't take too much from him before he decides to step away.
Right.
Um, that's the main thing to me. But it's scary, no doubt. And I mean, as a Rams fan, like if we don't have Stafford, there is no plan B at quarterback. Like at that point, you're in full rebuild mode. And thankfully, after the 2023 draft, the Rams do have all of their first round picks moving forward. So, if we need to have another season in the shitter in 2023 to get a top pick in 2024, there are worse years the way that the
do the
quarterback
Rams
class
do
is
so do
being
the Lions
projected
have
to
your
need a
first
quarterback. But
so do the Lions have your this is the last time the Lions have your first round pick is this coming up draft, right?
correct. Yeah, the Lions had their first round pick in the 2023 draft. After that, they have not mortgaged any more early picks. So 2024 and beyond, the Rams, as of right now, still own all of their picks. It's a pretty much a reset in 2024 if they need it to be. Um, so we'll see what comes of that. There's still a lot. There's still a lot that has to go on for us to be too concerned as far as that goes. But I am nervous though, for sure.
I think the kind of going back to the Baker thing. I mean, if he goes out there and plays relatively well, then they have their potential backup. Because right now, like you said, there is no plan B outside of Stafford. Bryce Perkins can't throw, and Warford's not the answer. So maybe Baker is their backup for the future.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think Baker could be anything more than a backup.
That's why. No, he's not a starting quarterback
not
in
at
the NFL anymore.
this point, but
even if they found out tomorrow that Stafford's injury was career ending, I don't think Baker's tenure with the
I'll tell you
Rams
this though, Drew, and I'll tell you this because I've already I haven't really fully dove into it, but like I've just from watching tape on prospects this year, if there was ever a time to need a quarterback and have your first round pick and suck, 2024 is
2024
going
is
to be
not a
the
bad
class.
time to need a quarterback.
That is going to be the class because there's about 3 dudes right now, possibly 4, that I think could be absolute studs. Really, like, that depends on if Cam Ward comes back. I fully expect him to come back and come out in 2024. If he comes out this year, that would drop one of those guys off. But Drake May is incredible. Caleb Williams is incredible. Quinn Ewers has shown a lot of really good stuff as well. I think if he puts another strong season together, I think he'll improve this coming up year. But he's a guy that has all the tools to be a stud franchise quarterback as well. So, yeah, not a bad time to need a quarterback and have a high pick at 2024. So.
Yeah, and if Stafford's a no-go next season, you better believe they're going to have a high pick in 2024 because he's, as you could see from the Rams offense post Stafford this year, he's a huge reason that they've even been below average. With everything that's gone wrong this season, like Stafford's the only thing that even kept them somewhat afloat. So you take that out of the picture, this team might win 2 or 3 games next year without Stafford.
Yeah, they lost Stafford and Cooper Kupp, and that was it. I mean, there's nothing on that offense. Like running, like Cam Akers fell in the end zone twice this week, though, which was kind of refreshing to see him having.
He's looked better the last couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah,
so he's getting healthier.
He continues to improve.
There's other quarterback injuries going on in that same division, though, that I feel like is much more noteworthy, at least for this year.
Yeah,
I think it's something worth talking about because, you're talking about a playoff team, man. You got the 49ers that have playoff hopes. They could even still potentially win the NFC West. And then, from the top rope, I hit Jimmy G with a choo-choo.
Sniped him. He couldn't handle it playing good.
I got his ass. And now insert Brock Purdy. Man, I mean the NFC is already kind of weak to begin with, and now you take Jimmy G off of that 49ers team. Now, granted, the report came out today that there's the potential to where if everything goes clean with Jimmy's rehab, he could be back for some playoff matchups. So I still think, this is just my opinion, I still think even without Jimmy G, the 49ers could find their way into the playoffs in the NFC. I think the NFC is top heavy enough and doesn't have the depth necessarily that I think the 49ers could withstand losing Jimmy G, especially considering my opinion of just how valued Jimmy G actually is to that team. But
I think the best case scenario for them is I think they win. I think they win the West. I do. I think they'll end up winning it. And
I think Seattle has the inside track right now.
I would agree.
They could.
I do too.
They lost Kenneth Walker too, though. So it's
we're not even we're not even sure that. Yeah, so that's the thing right there is that the defense is crazy, but we're not even sure Kenneth Walker is going to even miss one game right now. Like it's a week-to-week injury for Kenneth Walker to where he's still questionable for this week to where he can play this week. So they might even have Ken Walker back this week, but even without him, you still got DK, you still got Lockett, you still got Noah Fant who played well last week. Like the passing game is still there now. DJ Dallas is your lead runner if Ken Walker's out. And that's certainly not ideal. And that's even DJ Dallas is banged up. That whole backfield is just banged up to shit. Rashad Penny's out.
Travis Homer.
Yeah.
Travis Homer season.
You truly could be looking at Travis Homer week.
Look at the week. Yeah, look at the week though that Metcalf and Lockett just put together. I mean,
Geno put together another week, put together another game-winning.
Oh yeah, Geno's like it's for real. Like you're like this is real. It's a real thing. So
yeah. Yeah, he's a Pro Bowler if there's still a Pro Bowl.
It's a rough time for the K9. Kenneth Walker definitely is the K9. He's got that dog in him for sure. That boy is a beast. And if you listen to the 3-Man Rush podcast this draft season, you would also know that we were fans of his running style. I'm not going to speak for all of us, but
yeah, I was going to say no. I wasn't the biggest Kenneth Walker guy, just because I didn't.
There was one of us on here that at least said that he was probably the best pure runner in this class, and I certainly don't feel any worse about that after what he's put on tape this year. But yeah, I don't know, man. I still think
it's Breece Hall, but.
I still think Breece Hall is a better overall back, but I still fully believe that Kenneth Walker is the better pure runner. But I think I still have to give Seattle the edge for the division the rest of the way. But it's definitely, it says something about the 49ers team as a whole. The fact that we even have to, they lose their starting quarterback and we're still having this discussion of, is it the Seahawks or is it the 49ers?
They lost both their starting quarterbacks this season.
Yeah. Their true starting quarterback's been lost since the beginning of the year. Sorry, Trey Lance. I still believe in you. But I mean, we got to talk about Brock because that's the guy that's going to be starting a quarterback for this foreseeable future. And look, I mean, we know what Kyle Shanahan can do from a play calling standpoint. And it was only it was a start that he did not intend on making, obviously with Jimmy G getting hurt. But he was off target on 16% of his attempts, which was 8th worst among quarterbacks last week. It makes it even worse whenever you consider the fact that he only had 5.4 yard average depth of target, which was the lowest of all quarterbacks in week 13. So you're off target at the eighth highest rate in the league that week, and then you're you're throwing it the shortest of any quarterback in the league. Like those aren't the throws you need to be off target on. So that's concerning.
Yeah.
But to combat that, they're not going to ask him to do that much, to win games, and they're not going to have to. But it's the same conversation I had with Jimmy G.
Right.
There's a ceiling.
Right. So there's two reasons why this team still has a chance. One is obvious, and it's the defense. That defense is elite. That's they're just insane. Last chance Lions. And then that Christian McCaffrey, getting him mid-season, like now more than ever, is going to – it's McCaffrey time. It's going to be Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, a lot of running and playing defense. And they're going to – the passing game is going to be your Deacon and Duncan's low A-dot. They're not going to do anything to make put him in a situation where he has to go out there and sling it. And the way that defense plays, man, if they keep games close, they're still in it. And the NFC is still wide open. So
I'll say this for Brock Purdy though. I know, of course, here comes the quarterback.
Yeah, no reps with the first team or anything.
Here comes the quarterback guy to defend the quarterback. Like Jared said, without having any reps with the first team, having no really game preparation as the starter, and really for being
work in the preseason, I think it was pretty much it.
Yeah, like a few reps, but nothing. They didn't expect this guy to start, but he looks completely improved from where he was in college. I mean, he's really
there was nowhere to go but up. He was Mr. Irrelevant, I'm pretty sure.
And they still chose him over the number 1 pick in the draft in 2018. Because they could have got Baker. I mean, but they had no interest in Baker. They went with Mr. Irrelevant instead.
Well, I mean, I don't think the 49ers could have had Baker because the Rams put a claim in. It wasn't really an option for them.
Yeah, if they wanted Baker, they wouldn't have gotten Baker, but they didn't put a claim in anyway. So
right, I think they're content with what they have. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and I thought he did for coming in and being asked to come in, like I said, with no reps as the starter, with no consistency of throwing with these guys and with the first team and all this, to come in and put the game that he did together, it was actually it was impressive. Now, if we're 3 or 4 weeks down the road and he's had reps with these guys for a month and he's still, having turnover worthy plays and, his off, target percentage is still bad and all that kind of stuff, then but this is the last pick of the draft guy coming in, and I thought for what he was put out there and asked to do, I thought he'd handle himself very well. And he did put, there were some throws that he made that were okay, there's something there. So
you're not even in the draft consideration for quarterbacks at all if you can't make some type of throw. And if he does make one good deep ball, then hey, that means he's got one good
draft capital. Draft capital does matter too. But at the end of the day as well, we've seen it numerous times with other guys where even some undrafted, free agents have come in out of nowhere and
undrafted free agents have better hit rates than late round guys that get drafted.
Yeah. So you have guys that have been able to come in and put together strong seasons and as Rams
temper expectations a little bit, Brock Purdy's he's not good.
We don't know yet. That's the beautiful thing of it. We don't know yet.
No, I agree to disagree. I think we do.
Well, you can.
We're holding out hope for a good story.
Yeah. Well, I'm always going to root for guys to succeed, for sure. But
as long as they don't play for the Titans.
I root for Malik Willis to succeed. I think really highly of the kid. I think he's a phenomenal kid. I don't want him to fail. I just don't want him to win a Super Bowl. I don't want him to look like shit. Speaking of
looking like shit.
Yeah, make it to the AFC title game and lose every year. I don't care. Make it to the Super Bowl and lose. I don't care. Just don't win the Super Bowl.
Or
if he does, I would love to see him, the absolute favorite thing would be to see the Titans cut him or him move on from the Titans and then go on to have to win 5 Super Bowls in a row. I think that would be phenomenal. I think really, really, really highly of who he is as a person and his work. I really, really, really like Malik Willis. And it really pained me whenever he was drafted by the Titans. I was like, God, of all the teams that he could have went to, it's the one team that I've got to. It's very similar to your Trey Lance thing. Out of all the teams Trey Lance could have went to, it's the 49ers. But yeah. So, like I said,
speaking of the Titans, though,
Titans were in the news today. They fired their GM John Robinson, and on the cusp of their 3rd straight division title and playoff appearance. I personally was a big fan of John Robinson. I really liked what he was putting together there in Tennessee. Just to bring up some of his 1st and 2nd round picks over the last few years. Let's look into some of these guys here that he has picked in the first few rounds. Jack Conklin, who is now gone, member of the Browns. Kevin Dodd. You know who Kevin Dodd is?
Who?
Yeah, okay. Corey Davis plays for the Jets. He's gone. That's him.
Yeah.
I believe that was that a top 5 overall pick?
It was a top 5 pick. Yeah.
Top 5 overall pick. Yeah. Adoree Jackson
played his best ball after he left Tennessee.
Yeah, which happens. Rashad Evans, he is he is not there as well.
Right.
He was gone.
Wasn't a terrible pick, but yeah.
I was actually a big Rashad Evans fan coming out of the draft. Harold Landry, good pick.
Good pick.
Jeffrey Simmons,
good pick.
Very good pick. AJ Brown.
Great pick. Probably a guy
Right,
that you would.
They drafted his replacement though,
which was also probably a good pick, but in the context of what they traded away to make that pick, not so much.
And then here are their last 3 outside. So the Brown pick in the 1st round, and then
this is where it gets painful, right here.
Isaiah Wilson.
Gross.
Caleb Farley.
Gross.
Dylan Radunes.
Gross.
I don't even know who it is.
It's an offensive lineman from North Dakota State.
He's their guard right now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
they're actively probably looking.
Oh, Drew, you can't cut off on the Titans whenever we're shitting on the Titans.
The list is killing him.
I know. So yeah, so out of that list here, we have 3 guys from 2016 to 2021 that were big hits for them. That's Harold Landry, Jeffrey Simmons, AJ Brown. Obviously, we know AJ Brown was traded, and he dropped his nuts in their face on Sunday. Was absolutely beautiful to watch. I cannot have imagined that going better than it went.
That was one of the most I see this coming kind of moments in the season.
We talked about it Saturday night.
Revenge game narrative, man. It's a real
I don't believe in revenge game narratives, but that was them saying, yeah, we're going to make a statement. We're going to make sure you get in there at least twice.
Yeah.
Players care about revenge games, man, and we should too.
And especially him with how that all ended there with the Titans. He's consistently not been shy about bringing up that situation and how
he wasn't shy about it leading up to the game this last week either.
He hasn't been shy about it.
He said he had that shit circled.
Yeah.
I believe it.
So yeah, apparently that was the final straw. Watching the guy that they traded away, and you saw Vrabel on draft night, got up, walked away from the table, not happy about that move, and you saw that move come back to absolutely bite them in the ass. So right now they're sitting at 7-5. Derrick Henry's getting older, big running back contract as well. He was neutralized. They have not, out of the 7 wins, so they are 7-5, but out of all 7 wins, they have beat one team with a winning record at the time. And the other 6 wins have come from teams
in the AFC.
below 500. Well, some of them were they haven't played the Jaguars, I don't think, yet, or maybe they have. I'd have to look at their schedule to know for sure. But yeah, so let's look at it.
They're undefeated in the AFC South. I can guarantee you that.
They are. I can
Yeah,
also.
it's not setting the bar very high.
So let's look at the teams that they have played this week or this year so far. So they are 7-5. Started off obviously with the Giants. That's an L. The Bills in prime time. That was a slaughter.
Slaughterhouse.
So
They started off
they were 0-2 there, but then they rallied. They got to play the Raiders, the Colts, the Commanders with Carson Wentz. The Commanders were 1-4 at the time. So I don't want you sitting here thinking this is like the same Commanders team. They were 1-4 with Carson Wentz. They got to play the Commanders there. The Colts again, the Texans. So that was, they were 0-2. They were sitting at 4-2 after that. Then,
man, it pays to be in the AFC South.
They get
God,
They get 6 bye weeks
basically. And then they played the Chiefs. That was an L. The Broncos after that. The Packers after that. And then obviously the last 2 weeks, the Bengals and the Eagles, and both of those were L's as well. So actually, looking at this, they have not beat a single team above 500 on the year.
I was going to say, there's not a single team that you named that they won.
A single team of the 7 wins of playing against teams at 500. Obviously, they are strapped for cash as well due to the contract of Tannehill, the $80 million Bud Dupree contract, who has underperformed, obviously, to say the least, since
I just kind of thought about this, man. Is this
been that bad?
He has, I believe, since he signed the deal, what is it now? This is year 3 of that deal, correct?
Derrick Henry, they got the big contract with him.
And so this is year 3, I believe, of Bud Dupree. And
they're right. Hey, Ryan Tannehill.
And he has 7 total sacks in those 3 years, namely because he cannot stay on the field, which, of course, when they gave him the $80 million, he was also hurt and not able to stay on the field.
Slightly off the subject, is this one of the worst years for bad football teams? There's I feel like there's more bad football teams.
This is only year 2 of his contract, and he has 7. He had 3 sacks in year 1, 4 sacks in year 2 so far, and it's quarterback pressures is also, like if we're just going to go off just sacks, we're living in 1985. There's more to pass rushing stats than just sack numbers. But
let's take a look at Bud Dupree.
But he's only had 2 years, and the health is the biggest concern. His talent on the field, I don't really feel like is in question with what he's put on the field while he's actually out there. If you want to question like his availability, that's very fair. But he has performed when he's been on the field.
So let's look so far this year. He only has 15 hurries on the year. Only 2 quarterback hits. And
He's
then
missed
last year,
games, though, too.
he had 16 hurries. He has played in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
How does he only have 2 quarterback hurries if he has 4 sacks this year?
Well, because sacks and hurries are 2 different things.
But how do sacks not register as hurries? Am I missing something?
Yeah, because like say for example, say you come off a snap and Jeffrey Simmons pushes Ryan or the opposing quarterback into Bud Dupree, even though he had no pressure on that play. He got the sack.
Because I'm seeing 8 quarterback hits for Dupree for this year.
I'm only showing 2 right now, which of course this is per PFF.
I'm looking at Pro Football Reference. He's got 8 quarterback hits, 4 sacks.
So
I don't feel like I don't feel like Bud Dupree is the issue. Like the defense, especially along the defensive line, is
well, his pass
certainly
rush
not the
grade
problem.
so far this year as well is below average as
Yeah, but
well.
I don't need you to reference that though. As much as you've talked down how bad PFF is along both the offensive and defensive line, I really don't need you to
I don't think
reference
their defensive line coverage is necessarily bad. Their offense,
that. That doesn't match up with what you've told me over the years, though.
I think their offensive
You
line
have been
coverage.
very vocal of how bad both on the offensive and defensive line the PFF
Well,
is.
so here's the thing though, like their grading. I don't like their grading format. I don't think they're great. Like you can use like the statistics, like pressures, sacks, hits, hurries, like all that stuff. Like I don't think that's really anything.
Is that not what you were just about to reference? Was their grade for him though?
No, I was talking about the pass rushing like percentage, like the grade or not grade, but like
The grade.
grade. Like I don't really want to put it as like a grade because I'm not using like the total grade for the guy. I'm not using the defensive grade of 62.2. Like I'm not. That's not what I'm referencing. It's more about the percentages of like. He's really great whenever he's unblocked. He's fantastic unblocked. But as far as the line,
I feel like we're not even focusing anywhere near what the problem is for Tennessee. Is my point?
no, we're not. No, we're not. I agree.
The problem with Tennessee is the problem that a lot of teams are facing right now too is they know what they have with Ryan Tannehill and it's not enough. It's enough to win this division, but outside of that, they can't make any kind of push whatsoever. Their defense is still not able to stop any air game.
They're a pass funnel defense, and any
Yes.
smart offense knows, like, hey, we're playing Tennessee. We just don't need to run the ball.
Throw the ball up.
Like Jalen, like the Eagles the Eagles just continue to show why they're so much smarter than most NFL teams, and it's so obvious, and it seems like it would be such an easy thing to do. But like the week prior to Tennessee, I forget who it was that they were playing.
They just ran the ball.
If somebody could look up who the Eagles played prior to Tennessee, they were playing a defense that was so obviously terrible against the run, and they just ran the ball and ran the ball and ran the ball and ran the ball, and they had success.
Who's the worst defense against the run? As we've talked on the show a
lot. Green Bay, Cleveland comes to mind as two.
Green Bay,
yeah.
Green Bay.
So it just so obvious, like terrible against the run. So we're just going to run. And then the very next week they play Tennessee, one of the best run defenses in the league. And they're like, hey, we're just going to pass, which is green light. Hello. So obvious. That's what you should.
They're 11-1.
A lot of teams.
They also have the ability to do that.
Well,
not every team has that ability.
No, bullshit. Every team has the ability to do that. Every team has the ability. Every team has professional players on their team to where if the team you're playing has such an obvious glaring hole in their defense, you should be able to have the players to exploit it, especially if you're a playoff caliber team.
Yeah, but see,
you exploit it. I agree with the exploit part, but
when it comes to game plan, but there's some players that are incapable of execution.
Philly's balanced, man. Like their offensive line's phenomenal. They can run if they have to. They can throw if they need to. They can do whatever they want. That's the reason why they're the best team in the NFC.
Okay, so give me one team that's like somewhat in contention that wouldn't be able to run against Green Bay or wouldn't be able to pass against Tennessee. This is shit this should be common knowledge across the league. But it doesn't happen like this. It's not as simple. We're making it out to be so simple. It doesn't happen like this though. Like there are teams that will play against Green Bay and will still throw the ball 40 times, or teams that play against Tennessee and they will try to match Tennessee's energy and run the ball 30 times instead of just passing the ball nonstop. Like what we're talking
Dallas
about.
got beat by Green Bay. And they have a two-headed monster in the backfield and a half-assed good.
And instead they let Dak Prescott throw 2 or 3 interceptions. I can't remember which. Whenever the running backs were having a heyday. That's my point, man. That's exactly what I'm saying, which is why.
I agree with you 100%, but I do feel like I think a lot of it has to do with personnel as well. Like Philly is so balanced that, like, I mean, their one loss was against Washington,
I mean,
and
they have one of the best rosters in the league, no doubt.
So I mean,
yeah,
like
on paper, it's probably
who do you have in
in
contention?
all honesty.
Like, so like name the teams you would have in contention here. Like what? Because really, like that depends on what your definition of contention is.
Dallas is the only one that stands out to me that basically went against the game plan.
I mean, you have the Bills, who they're probably not lining up and running the football on anybody. I wouldn't imagine.
But they threw all over Tennessee.
Yeah, they can, but I mean, I don't think they can really like run the ball effectively outside of that quarterback.
Yeah, they could if they played at Green Bay or somebody like that, if they wanted to establish the run, hashtag establish the run.
Yeah, the Chiefs obviously like they're in contention. That's the main thing is there's not really many teams that's actually in contention.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard because we were talking for a while on Bud Dupree, but can you guys recall a year where there's so many bad football teams?
No, this is. I mean,
it's been a while.
I mean,
it's the have-nots.
You have the tippy top, and there's nothing in the middle. It's just bad. There's a lot of just like really bad NFL teams this year.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that actually, because that was kind of the next point that I was going to get to that we were going to talk about on this show was the AFC playoff picture. Lamar's going to be out for possibly 1 or 3 weeks, and there's a lot of big matchups that are coming up right now. You've got the AFC North basically plays itself this week, so you've got a bunch of matchups there as far as that's concerned. And then just the AFC in general. I mean, man, let me just pull it up real quick so that we can just discuss it in general.
It's crazy to think
the Bengals see the AFC playoff picture.
Crazy to think the Bengals have scored more points than the Dolphins have this year. It's pretty wild.
They've scored more points than Miami?
They have.
Wow. I would not have thought that, actually.
Now they have the third best offense by points for in the AFC.
Kansas City won, obviously.
Yes, Kansas City is number 1, 350 points scored this year. Buffalo second, 333, and the Bengals are right after that, 312. Miami is only scored 299.
Tua missed a couple weeks though, too.
He did. So that's just aggregates.
Wow, look at this playoff picture.
Gross.
So we've got a lot of these teams, like as far as the AFC North goes.
I was saying, like, if you're looking, I mean, I only see 4 actual contenders, possibly even 3 in that group.
I don't trust the Vikings.
That would be one of the 4. That would be one of those 4 that I don't have the most trust.
The Ravens are.
We're rolling out the Vikings before we do the 49ers.
Oh, the 49ers aren't in that group.
Oh, no. I mean, the 49ers are cooked.
Okay, yeah. So like, as far as actual contenders up there in that picture,
the Bucks, no thank you.
Bills, the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Vikings are like the only contenders out of all of those teams that I think.
Yeah, and I still don't trust Minnesota.
We need to drop a little bit because this is where like the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Cowboys. These guys are contenders. The Bengals and the Dolphins and the Cowboys.
Yeah, so even then, so say you want to throw Minnesota in, but that which is fine.
This is what I was getting at though.
So these are 7. So that's 7
This is what I was getting at though.
That actually might have a shot. That means there's 25 teams that we virtually look at, and we're like, no.
It's tippy top or nothing.
Yeah. See, like none of those teams I'm sold on. Really, and I don't even know, like, truly, like, really the only 2 teams that I'm 100% sold on out of all of these teams are the Eagles and the Chiefs.
I like the Bengals a lot, man.
Well, yeah, I would probably put the Bengals up there, but I don't know if I fully trust the Bills right now.
If the playoffs were to start today, I think the AFC Championship game would be Kansas City and Cincinnati, and I think Cincinnati has their number.
Cincinnati's playing really fucking good.
We're writing off the Bills too easily, man.
Oh, I mean, I'm not writing them off for sure. Like I mean, they're clearly to me one of the better teams in all of football. I just don't know right now and it has nothing to do necessarily with like them not performing. I think it's just like the injuries there, like Von Miller being out, their offensive line banged up, Josh Allen's injury, like which we're still.
The Ravens have struggled even when Lamar was healthy though too. Like they're banged up.
The Ravens are the team that makes me the most nervous because I think it was just last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I was talking about like if I was an AFC team, I would be nervous seeing the Ravens. I don't really know. Like I continue to flip flop on if that's even the case or not.
They're not scoring a lot of points at all.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like when it comes.
The offense really seems like it looks like they're really missing Rashad Bateman. Like, and it's it's been a long time since we saw Bateman, but like the downfield threat that Bateman represented early on in the season, like that offense looks scary. And ever since that Bateman got hurt, that offense doesn't look the same.
Now they're rolling out multiple tight ends just to increase the passing game. Like it's.
Lamar, I'm not concerned about
nobody outside of Lamar Jackson that scares me. Like
right, exactly. Lamar's
I think Mark Andrews
putting everything on Lamar's shoulders.
Well, I mean, I think Mark Andrews is one of the best tight ends in football. But that being said, it's a lot easier to take away a dynamic tight end in the passing game than it is to take away a dynamic wide receiver in the passing game. And they don't have that. So, like, you can focus, like, linebackers, safety, and possibly even a slot cornerback as well on Mark Andrews, on that one guy, and just say, okay, Devin Duvernay beat us.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Demarcus Robinson beat us.
Yeah, and outside of Lamar, and really outside of Lamar's legs, like if this leg injury, PCL injury ends up affecting any of his running game,
and their running backs,
his running game opens up so much of the passing game for him that and we've seen this in the playoffs multiple times now as well. Whenever you get in, this is with a fully healthy Lamar Jackson, is whenever you are able to set and make him play from the pocket, he does struggle a little bit. Not saying like he's a bad pocket passer at all, because he's not. But if that threat of his legs isn't there to open up, because right now the way you play the Ravens is you're just playing zone defense most of them. You can't play man-to-man against Lamar Jackson. You can't, because of the threat he presents. If that threat isn't there, then
your odds of winning are definitely increasing.
The way you're able to play that entire offense and the way you're able to play him, just even from a quarterbacking perspective, is night and day. And I think it takes away what makes him so special in the passing game, not only as a runner, but just as a passer as well. So it's one of those things, like, I mean, you hope he's fully healthy by the time it rolls around, but if that PCL injury rears its head at all, then yeah, they're shot for sure.
The crazy thing is too, man.
Yeah.
Like,
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I know Minnesota's record is what it is, and I mean they've won a lot of close games this season. There's only two teams in the NFC that I have any faith in, and one of them is obviously the Eagles, but the Cowboys are the other team because of their defense.
What were you going to say, Drew?
I was more looking toward the AFC. It's just like looking at the AFC playoff picture. The Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Dolphins are the only four teams that I'm like, if any of those four teams make the Super Bowl, I'm not surprised. But if somebody outside of those four makes the Super Bowl, I'm going to be like shocked out of my fucking mind. I feel like those are the four teams in the AFC.
I agree.
Yeah, the Titans.
I agree with Jared on that in the NFC. I think it's the Eagles and it's the Cowboys. And I think it's everybody else after those two teams.
I think
Yeah.
I don't think the Vikings can be 10-2 and you not put them in the picture. Like, yes, they've played in some close games this year, but there's something to be said with winning that many close games,
No,
especially
I
whenever
mean,
you
no,
have a
they're
history
for
prior.
sure,
Hang
I
on,
get it, but their two losses
hear
are
me out.
against the Eagles and the Cowboys.
and they weren't
Right.
close.
Which is fair, but to like they're probably only going to have to play one of those two teams. Like their road ends up being fucked. And they have to beat them both to get to the Super Bowl. But they're probably
Well,
going to have to
really,
play
like,
one of
I
those
mean,
two teams all the way.
even if you just add the
You have to
Vikings as a
consider
group,
you have to consider them a contender. You have
yeah,
to.
I don't think that. I don't think they're not necessarily contender. I think they're one. I think they're one of only 3 actual contenders in the NFC in general.
Okay, now I'm
But
on board.
but I don't. I think they're a step below the other 2. I think that,
I have no problem if you want to rank them number 3 in terms
yeah,
of the contenders.
that's basically
I
what we're
feel like
saying.
I feel like they need to be in that group. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, they're one of 3 teams in the NFC that I'm like, okay,
Because on any given week, Justin Jefferson can go for 250 and 2 and just wreck any plans you thought you had of beating the Vikings.
yeah,
Sure.
I agree,
Absolutely.
but also too, like, so when you're looking at close games like that, notoriously teams that play close games like that in the regular season, whenever playoff football rolls around, things usually end up turning the opposite, like in a very bad way. I mean,
That's a fair argument. I'm just saying, like, in the past, the Vikings have been on the flip side of this to where they
yeah,
lose every single close game, and that's not like like if you're gonna say, oh, they win all the close games in the regular season, so they lose in the postseason. The Vikings have been losing close games in the regular season, and that has not translated into luck flipping in their favor in the postseason and them winning those games. They've still been losing in the postseason too. So, like, it's not like that there's like a flip of the hat or anything in terms of how that goes. But I just think that I think we would be wrong to just completely dismiss the Vikings. If you want to put
yeah.
them
I'm not gonna dismiss them at all. But
if you
I
want to
just
put a
think,
third in the pecking order, I agree with that. I think that the Eagles and the Cowboys are the 2 best teams in the NFC. So like I have no issue with that. I have issue with completely writing the Vikings off. But if we're not doing that, then I'm on board.
yeah, that's fine. I have an issue with that. So yeah, but back to the original point though about like any team that's contenders are able to play football like that, or like they're able to attack multiple areas of a defense's weakness. There's really only 6 to 7 actual contenders in all of football, and
Yeah,
Right now,
and,
we're going
and everybody else can't do that because they don't have the personnel, they don't have the quarterback, they don't have the running game, the offensive line play. Just around the
there's 6
league.
teams. There's 3 in the AFC and 3 in the NFC right now. I feel like are the dominant teams. Like AFC, it's pretty easy. I don't even know if I have Miami there, man, because their defense.
The Lions are a team that I think can attack a team on offense in multiple ways, which is why they score so much. One problem is for them that they can also
get beat.
Yeah, they can also be attacked in multiple ways too. There's no like real saving grace there for them. But
Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincinnati, and then
Miami,
Eagles, Vikings, and Cowboys. I mean, that's really.
Yeah, I think you got to put Miami in that group in the AFC, man. They would be 4th for me. Like they would be Buffalo, Kansas City, and Cincinnati, but I think that they're a step above Tennessee, Baltimore, the Jets. Like I think that they're a level ahead of those other teams in the AFC, to where I think that they should be. I think they should be considered a contender. I mean, Mike McDaniel showed enough. The defense has shown enough improvements down the stretch, and that offense is so dynamic that I would not be excited. See, kind of the same what I said about Baltimore earlier this year. I feel like rings true for Miami. If I was an AFC team and I saw Miami coming to town in the playoffs, I wouldn't be super excited about that.
No, and you're to that same point too. They're coming off a loss, but I mean they played one of the best defenses I've seen in a long time. So it's my only problem with Miami is I think they're a playoff team. It just depends on who they draw in the playoffs in the first round because if they face one of these teams like on the road and it's weather conditions or anything like that, or even cold for that matter too, I don't know how well they'll do with that passing game.
Yeah. No, I mean that's true. They won't get that. They won't get that home field advantage where they get to put the away team in 110-degree temperatures and shit while they're chilling in the 80s over there on their sideline and all that. So that's a very fair point. They're at the point in like the way seeding breaks out right now. They're going to be the away team, so they're not going to get that home field advantage that they've gotten to fry opponents off of. At this point in the season. So that's a fair point, but I do think they should at least be grouped in the contenders. Whereas like a team like Tennessee that's ahead of them in the standings right now because they're going to win their division.
Yeah,
I wouldn't consider Tennessee a bigger threat.
No, I agree with that 100%. I would put them over Baltimore too, for that matter.
Yeah, I agree. Baltimore, I really hope Baltimore focuses on. I know they tried with Rashad Bateman, and I know that injuries have derailed a little bit, but I really hope that if they do retain Lamar Jackson this offseason, I really hope they try to focus on making that offense more dynamic. And I feel like Lamar has outgrown that offensive system that Greg Roman has put into place there in Baltimore. I think they need a new voice in terms of the offensive play calling in Baltimore.
It needs to be more open.
If they move forward with Lamar, I think, there's a lot to be said with how everybody gets fired up over the success that Huntley has whenever he has spot starts. I think that, the offense, obviously, considering what Lamar was early on in his career, it makes sense that Huntley would have success because it's built around what Lamar was early in his career, which is similar to what Huntley is. But I think Lamar's kind of outgrown that. And Greg Roman is still kind of stuck in what worked early on in Lamar's career. And
the other problem with the Ravens too is they're such a run-heavy team, but their defense is not very good. So it's a
very spotty.
It's a counterpunch, basically. It'd be one thing if their defense was built like the Dallas Cowboys or obviously San Francisco too. Then that would make more sense, but the NFL is a very pass-friendly league, and they don't have the weapons to keep up with a Cincinnati or a Miami. Even in some cases, even the Jets. The Jets have a much better receiving core than what the Ravens have, and a better defense. I lost Drew and Landon's on his phone.
I was going through some messages.
But yeah, I think, in all honesty, I think the Jets are a better team than Baltimore right now.
They put up a fight against Minnesota this past week. That was a fun game to watch. So I don't know.
That defense is pretty good, and they got a lot of weapons on offense. And I think Mike White is an upgrade over Zach Wilson too.
I even after the loss against Minnesota, I would still agree. They did miss some chance. They missed some opportunities to possibly beat Minnesota. But I didn't. I watched a decent amount of that game because I was really intrigued by it, and I wasn't watching any of it coming away thinking Zach Wilson would have cashed in.
Also would have made a difference.
Yeah, like the opportunities that Mike White missed, I don't necessarily think Zach Wilson would have cashed in on them. So, Garrett Wilson. The main takeaway that I had from the New York Jets is Garrett Wilson has arrived. Everything that we thought he would be.
Yep, he has arrived. That's for sure.
Absolutely. You guys want to rapid fire a couple of other Week 14 matchups that have big implications before we get out of here?
Yeah.
All right. So Vikings and Lions. This one's so interesting because the Vikings, who are the number 2 seed in the NFC, are favored to lose this game on the road against the Detroit Lions that have been playing some really good football lately. And what are they? Are 3-1 in their last 4 or
4-1.
4-1 in their last 5?
Yeah, 4-1.
So playing really well. Hey, Landon tried to tell you guys this preseason that they were going to be the second best team in the NFC North. We just all thought that it would be Green Bay that was in first place and not and not Minnesota. But here we are.
How about
It turns out Detroit really might be the second best team in the NFC North, and now they're playing against the.
something the other day, or I've got it actually. It's still in my drafts, but I was going through watching some Anthony Richardson stuff and put up a video on him if you haven't already seen it yet. But I was sitting there and I was like, man, Anthony Richardson on this Lions offense is like,
Oh, brother, that would be a
oh,
lot of fun.
I mean, like, and I think too, like, you know, they have a quarterback in Jared Goff who's playing good enough football right now. You can let him sit for a year, and you know, because he's very raw. He needs a lot of development, but
He does, yeah.
I think allowing him to sit for a year and have another year of golf probably next year, which I don't know.
Yeah, they've got Goff under contract anyway, so
Yeah, so I mean, I would like.
He's not played himself out of that starting job or nothing.
No, which is like they're in the perfect scenario to take a guy like that, where like the upside is just like astronomical, but
he easily has the highest upside of any quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, and so like you add what he can do, like as a dynamic like quarterback with DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams and Jameson Williams coming back and Amon-Ra St. Brown and that offensive line. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, man, that offense would have a chance to be just absolutely just insane. I mean, like we're talking about, like, you can't stop it.
But right now we're talking about the Detroit Lions of this year that are currently favored.
I'm always living in the next year.
It's because of Jamal Williams is the reason why they're favorites.
Yeah, Jamal Williams is somewhere. I got to be convinced that like somebody was just so impressed by Jamal Williams' air hump touchdown dance that they were like, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna make the Lions the favorites because like
he leads the league in touchdowns.
What a time to be alive, man.
Yeah, good chance he gets in from the 1 yard line in this game.
Yeah, he's getting a touchdown this game for sure. But it's wild to me, man. The Vikings are the 2 seed in the NFC.
I think it goes back to what we just did in the last segment. Like, I don't think they're getting any respect.
They're not clearly. If they can't even like, and I get the whole like, you know, the home team gets so many points, blah blah blah. But like,
the home team gets at least 3 points.
But that's even that. Even that's been scaled down to a point to where it's not even a flat 3 anymore. Like it all depends on the home field advantage and what team you're talking about and things like that. Like it's not a flat 3 like it used to be. But like you've got 2 losses on the season, and you're going into the game and you're not even favored to win against a team that's not even in the playoffs right now. Like the team you're playing isn't even in the playoffs right now, and you're the 2 seed in the NFC, and you're not favored to win. That's crazy to me.
It could be a lot of hubris that people believe so heavily in the Lions' offense, or they do not feel Minnesota has any kind of defense either, because both these teams' defenses are not good.
No, I fully believe this to be. I fully believe this will be a shutout. But shootout, the exact opposite of a shutout. I think this will be a shootout, but why? Help me understand. Like the Lions defense, as bad as the Vikings defense is, the Lions defense is worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then do you really trust the Lions offense more than the Vikings offense?
No, I mean, we're coming off a week where so the Jacksonville Jaguars spread with the Lions last week was very close spread as well. At one point, I think Jacksonville may have been favorites to win that game. and then the Lions went in there and took care of business and like basically shut them down.
Yeah, it's
like,
basically to me like it just boils down to
Vegas overreacts sometimes too, man. And this spread will change too. It'll probably be a little bit more even, if not even kind of tilt over to the Vikings side, maybe a little bit.
To me, it's just basically like it's a team that's really hot right now, playing really good football, versus a team that's like just kind of skating by.
Yeah.
Just like they're just squeaking by in these matches. I mean, they're still winning.
Squeaking by against better opponents.
They beat Buffalo. I mean, their wins are definitely a lot more impressive than beating the brakes off of Jacksonville and Green Bay.
Yeah, I guess if you look at it, like, I guess if you, I don't know, like in a way, it's almost kind of like
Chicago.
If I'm beating any NFL team by like 3, or and like that's a good win, especially against tough competition.
Yeah.
But if you're going out there, I mean and you're dropping like 40 plus on NFL. I don't care if it's a bad NFL team. If you're dropping 40 plus on NFL rosters, like that's tough. Like I don't care who the opponent is. Like that is fucking tough to do.
No, I get it.
They might be facing inferior competition, but they might be winning in more impressive ways. Like, I mean that's a thing. Like it really is. But I mean
I think that
if you're playing inferior competition, you should be winning in more impressive ways.
Yeah, but not like.
I'll tell you one thing.
Not like that. I mean, there's a difference between like beating a team by like one or like a 1-score game, or like even like a 10.
Detroit had a good game against. Detroit had a good win against Jacksonville.
Did they have a good win against Jacksonville?
Yeah, they beat the brakes off of them.
Yeah, they had a good win against Jacksonville. That's like one good win against Jacksonville is enough to be like, yeah, they should be favored against the number 2 seed in the NFC.
Well, that's the thing. It's not like one good win. It's like
I will say one thing. If I was a Vikings,
what else are they living off of?
If I was a Vikings fan, I would be worried to face this team. I would be worried as any team.
I wouldn't be. I would not be worried about the Lions at all, personally.
I do believe in playing like the Lions are playing with house money, man. No one thought they would be even 5-7 at this point.
That's not true. I thought they would be better at this point.
They're better than the Green Bay Packers.
A lot better than that.
Yeah, they're better than the Packers. Like, they have an outside shot of making the play. I mean, they have a shot of making the playoffs, really and truly. But I mean, if they lose this game, they lose this game. If they win this game, they're another hot story to talk about for another week. They're just going off momentum, and that's the reason why. Like, this is the kind of matchup where they can win.
But betting odds are made of more than just fun stories, though.
Yeah, I know. This is definitely where you rack up in cash, man. You bet if they're underdogs, you're going to bet on the Vikings to win this game.
Yeah, but if
Kentucky allowed sports betting, I would 100% be betting on the Vikings.
You just take a drive over the highway, man. It's about 15 minutes.
I need to take a shot over to Illinois. It's just
Landon does it all the time.
Do it all the time.
Just like I'm just asking you to make it make sense for me. Neither team's defense has been good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like we know that, and you're like,
it's recency bias.
I think Detroit's defense. I think Detroit's defense is still worse than Minnesota's. And then you've got like I'm taking even with the success that Detroit's offense has seen, I'm still taking Minnesota's offense over Detroit's offense.
No, I get that. I totally understand that. But there is a thing, like in Vegas is notorious about this, man. Like recency bias is a real thing in sports betting, DFS, all that stuff. So they're going to look at the previous week that Detroit dropped what they dropped on Jacksonville, and they look very impressive doing it, where Minnesota is squeaking by with wins. Like no matter what the record.
Go look at any team that's gotten to play against Jacksonville. Their defense has been horrendous for the last month. Like that, for us in the DFS community, we are well aware that the Jacksonville Packers defense has been one to target.
Yeah, But so I'm glad you bring that up. So prime example is that spread was super close with Jacksonville. I didn't lean
Well, the
towards
Ravens.
Jacksonville
Okay,
last
so
week.
here's the last few games for the Jaguars. The Ravens lost by 1 point in that game. They only put up 27. The Chiefs only put up 27 against that same Jaguars defense the week before. The Raiders only put up 20. The Broncos put up 21. So, I mean, you have the Chiefs, good offense, right? 27 points. Ravens, decent enough offense with Lamar Jackson, 27 points. The Lions, 40. So, I mean, like, it's a team that other teams, like other playoff teams right now, have struggled with over the last few weeks. And Detroit goes in there.
Struggled is a strong word. Teams that have done enough and then coasted to a dub.
I mean, the Ravens just lost to them. And then, I mean, like, that's what I'm saying.
The Raiders is our benchmark?
The Ravens.
The Ravens offense is again the Ravens and the Vikings offense are not in the same stratosphere right now.
The Ravens put up the same amount of points as the Chiefs did.
The Chiefs put up enough points. The Chiefs put up the points they needed to get by.
Oh yeah, but see, so now you're going backwards though. So I mean, at what point are we knocking Detroit for going out there and blowing?
I'm not knocking Detroit. I'm knocking. If you look at the Jaguars' defense, passing defense specifically, but I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I can't put them out.
Let me make a point real quick.
The advanced metrics for the Jaguars' passing defense for the last month and a half has been off the charts awful, to where if you want to attack anybody in terms of like DFS and things like that, the Jaguars have been a passing defense to attack. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the Chiefs didn't have to put up 40 points because that's not what they needed to win.
So let me make one.
The Lions didn't even need 17 points to win, but they still went out there and dropped.
And good for them, and as they should, because the Jaguars are a very beatable passing defense.
But I wanted to say something.
I'm not discrediting the Lions' offensive production. I'm just saying that the shit ain't gonna be as sweet against the Vikings whenever you have an offense that is also capable of keeping that same energy.
And this is where you cash in, my friend. This is where you make money. So just to piggyback off of what my point was, and what the original was, like, why are they considered underdogs according to Vegas? So the week prior, they played Jacksonville. It was a 1 point spread. The Lions were favored by 1 point. You know why that was? Because Jacksonville just came off a win against Baltimore and looked impressive. So it's a week to week is how Vegas determines these spreads. The Lions came off a big win against the Jaguars, and they dropped. I can't remember how many points they dropped, but they blew them out. So Vegas is going to look at it like basically it's a dome game. There's going to be a lot of scoring going on. They're the home team. That's the reason why they're a small favorite in it. And Minnesota hasn't been scoring as many. Minnesota didn't score that many points against the Jets compared to what the Lions scored in the previous week. That's how the spread works. But I mean, like me, like that's easy. That's take $5. You put it on the Vikings because they are the better team overall.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying, man. I still feel like Minnesota's getting disrespected, and they could still drop this game, and I still feel like, based off their entire body of work this season, that they're just getting written off because they've played in a few close games and they've beaten teams that they were supposed to beat. It's like, well, they beat them, but they only beat them by this many points. Like, so
it's a neutral game environment too. For both these teams are dome teams, so it's like a neutral game environment. Like, there's gonna be points in this game. Like, there's no way around it. There's too much.
Oh yeah, no,
there's too many.
I got a feeling we're gonna be talking about this game a lot on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, you can't avoid it. This game's unavoidable, especially when you look at like the rest of the week and the spreads in some of these games. Like, this is by far the highest one point total wise. Both defenses are not great. It's a dome game. It's a perfect setup, man. But how are you going to be different is going to be the real hard part.
So I mean, I'm going to take the Vikings in this game. I want to know where you guys take the Lions.
I'm going to take the Vikings as well. I will say though, I would not be shocked if the Lions won, and I think Aiden Hutchinson is starting to come around. He's starting to look like
He's been like he's been good all year, but he's been special this second
yeah,
half of the year though.
he's looking like the number 2 pick overall.
I'm gonna take the Lions.
We get the reason I wanted to get to the picks because we still have like three other really big games to talk about, and we're an hour and a half deep. And this next one is pretty big in terms of divisional matchup and um, playoff implications in total. You got this might be the Giants' biggest game of the year. You got the Eagles against the Giants in New Jersey. And I mean, right now, the way things are sitting, um, the Giants are the 6th seed. They're 7-4-1. The Seahawks are 7-5. They're right behind them. The Commanders are 7-5-1, right behind them. Uh, Landon's Detroit Lions are 5-7 at the 9 seed, right behind that. Uh, so that's the next closest thing to these NFC East teams. But it's, I mean, they're not going to catch the Eagles. The Giants obviously aren't going to catch the Eagles, but
Yeah,
um, there's still a chance that they can catch the Cowboys possibly and leapfrog them. And beating the Eagles would obviously go a long way in that. Like this might be the biggest game of the year for the Giants, and division game this late in the year. You know, I feel like it's something worth talking about at least.
yeah.
I don't have any hot take for this one. I think that the Eagles handle business. I think that they're clearly the better team. I've been on record that I don't think the Giants are as good as what their record says. Even though not to knock Brian Daboll on what they're doing, I think that they're
He's a coach of the year candidate for sure.
yeah, yeah. I love what he's doing. I love what the roster's doing. I think that Brian Daboll is squeezing everything he can out of that team.
Yeah,
So I don't have any like hot take for this game or anything. I thought it was one worth bringing up. I think the Eagles handle business. I think the Giants, you know, they're a team with a ceiling that's capped. Um, but it's a big game this weekend though, and it's one that I'm very intrigued to watch.
yeah. Man, I just don't see how the Giants pull it off here though. Phillies is such a complete team. It's going to take something special out of Saquon Barkley in order, and I know we all love Barkley, and he's had a hell of a year. I do feel like he's kind of running out of gas a little bit towards the tail end of the season because he has taken on so much. Like for this offense, he is basically the offense at this point, and he
Yeah, I don't even know if it's so much that he's running out of gas as much as it's just like defenses are just solely focusing on him to where it's like
right.
how can you beat a whole defense by yourself?
Yeah, yeah. It's Darius Slayton's played a lot better the last few weeks. It I and Daniel Jones, you just it's week to week with this guy. Like he can have really good games, and then he can go out and just play absolutely atrocious. So
Dayball's
Jalen
making
Hurts,
sure he gets the most out of his legs though.
yeah, Jalen Hurts does not have bad games this year. I don't see how the Giants get it done, even being at home, and it's kind of a must win for them in a lot of ways too to
Yeah.
keep pace.
Yeah, things are getting tight at the bottom of that NFC in the playoff picture. So, um, Landon, I know you were a big Giants supporter earlier in the year. Any crazy takes on this one?
Nah, not really this one. It's just the talent levels of these two teams are just it's
Nice
just
day.
too big of a gap, for them to
Yeah.
overcome. And I do think it's going to be a closer game than what people think it'll be. The Giants will play tough. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, but it's uphill, sledding or swimming, however you want to say it, upstream for the Giants to get a dub in this game. So, going to go ahead and take the Eagles on this one.
All right, clean sweep on that one. So let's talk about a very intriguing AFC matchup. So you've got as of right now, the 6th seed in the AFC versus the 9 seed in the AFC, who are only separated by, I believe, 2 games. And pretty big deal. Two teams that have been going in different directions as far as this season's been going so far. But you got the Dolphins and the Chargers. I think easily, in my opinion, the most intriguing game this weekend in terms of the narratives that we've seen this season. With the whole like, are there any two quarterbacks this year that have been compared more closely than Tua and Justin Herbert right now?
No.
I can't imagine seeing it. So I'm gonna turn it over to our quarterback guy, Landon, and let him educate our viewers that choose to listen and just kind of turn this thing over real quick. So Landon, go ahead, dive into the Dolphins and the Chargers for us.
You broke up. What were you saying?
I was just saying, educate us on the Dolphins and the Chargers, and Tua versus Herbert, and the great debate that has been this season so far between those two quarterbacks.
Wow. Well, first off, it's a debate that is made strictly for clicks and for hot takes. This is the only reason it's a debate. It has nothing to do with the play on the field for either one of these guys. They're both phenomenal quarterbacks in their own right. Difference is with Tua, he's one of those guys, and this is not a knock on a quarterback. This is a good thing that he's able to utilize the talent that he has. But he's a guy that things tend to need to be perfect, built around. You got to have the strong offensive line. You got to have the dynamic weapons that create yak opportunities and after the catch. And you have to have the strong running game. You have to have all this stuff for him to be successful. And luckily they have that. And he's been wildly successful. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in all of football. That's not a knock on him. I think that's fantastic that he's able to have all that, but utilize it correctly, because we've seen so many times where quarterbacks have these dynamic weapons and this great offensive line. They just don't have the talent or the ability to really make the most of it. And he's a guy that can do that. With Justin Herbert, the exact opposite situation, where he's terrible offensive line, weapons. He's out there throwing the fourth, fifth string guys, and they don't really have much of a running game as well. Like, they don't run the ball effectively. Austin Eckler's a really good running back, but he's more utilized in the passing game. And this is a situation where these guys are just being asked to do two different things. One guy's being asked to play within the roster and the system. One guy is being asked to be the roster and the system. And that's the only really debate about it. I mean, like, you can get on TV now, apparently, with just and say whatever and try to get engagement and not really put any thought or effort into what you're doing. I mean, like, we've known this to be the case. It's been the case for years. It's got like Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith and
I mean, that's shot television too. I mean,
well, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what it is. But the shitty thing is that people actually watch these shows, and
people watch
the average. Yeah, but no, that's the thing, is like, because you see it on the internet with fans constantly. You see it in person with fans constantly, because people take these talking points they hear from guys that are qualified and are credentialed, and they're on national TV and they have a big stage and a platform, and they just get out there and they spew this absolute bullshit that has absolutely nothing to do with breaking the game down and making guys smarter, making fans smarter, making people understand things at a base level. And
from both angles, so man, I use the MTV narrative. Like,
there's to me, there's no other angle. There's no other. It's basically for clicks. Clicks generates money.
Sure.
Money is good. That's it. It does not come from a place of knowledge. It does not come from a place of wanting to better the understanding of football. It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. So
it's entertainment. It's what it is. It's not a be all and all.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It would be entertainment, which is fine if it was labeled as such, But you know what the title of these guys are? It's not entertainers. Like if you look at what their title is under the screen when it says Emmanuel Acho, what is his title? NFL analyst. It doesn't say NFL entertainer. It says NFL analyst. So people see that title and they say, I'm going to listen to this guy. He played in the NFL, possibly. And, he played in the NFL. I'm going to listen to this guy. He's a paid analyst on a national network that has NFL experience. I'm going to listen to what he has to say. And what he has to say is absolute total bullshit. It has nothing to do with breaking down the game and making people understand it to a baseline. There's very few guys that do that. Dan Orlovsky does that. Ryan Clark does that. Brian Baldinger does that. There are guys out there that you can get really good information. And that's not the only 3 guys. That's just 3 guys off the top of my head that I think very highly of. But this Tua versus Herbert debate is sprung up because of hot takes. And it's rooted in reality. And I can't fucking stand that shit because it does a disservice not only to whichever one of the guys, but it does a disservice to the game of football.
I get your point.
Enjoy both of these guys for what they are, and they're 2 very different guys.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think though, so like you break down film, like you study, like you take the time to to break down the game. Like where these guys, man, it's more what you do and other people do, like those analysts you named, and like a lot of people online, which is more valuable resource if you're actually wanting to learn the ins and outs of football. We're a niche audience. Like what these guys do on ESPN and Fox Sports and things like that is entertainment, and they're going to have a bigger audience, and it's something that you just throw on. Like ESPN is a generic channel.
That's what I think you're wrong. That's what I think you're wrong. Is it's not if people weren't using those talking points in discussions, I would agree that it's something that people just throw on. I would agree. But the average person is using the talking points from these shows to try to make arguments and knowledgeable statements.
Yeah, like that's the problem.
No, I get that.
It's not just you are able to distinguish it as a somebody who watches football, who does research, for DFS. You are able to distinguish it as entertainment. You are. Correct. That is not the case for the majority of people. They do not know the difference between actual analysis and entertainment.
Well, I can tell you, I play a lot of DFS. It's no secret. I would never ever take advice from Skip Bayless or any of those people on player matchups or anything like that. My resource comes from like reliable, like websites, reliable analysts, yourself, people like that, Drew, people I know that puts in the work to actually break down, like what is.
But most people don't know that. That's the problem.
Well, I want most people not to know that, so I can beat their ass every Sunday in DFS. Man.
I want more people to know that. So we are raising the intelligence level of the average fan, and we are able to have
correct. The average fan is the word I'm using, though. Like what we do and what true sports analysts are in 2022 is for a niche audience. What Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith, people like that, it is more for the casual fan that can literally just put on a mind-numbing television show, sit back, and be like, "Oh yeah."
I get that point, Jared. I really do, but I think you're missing the point of it's not just something they put on and just don't think about, and it's just mind-numbing. They don't do that. What they do is they put it on for information because they love sports and they love their favorite team. And this guy's an NFL analyst who's on a national network, who his title is NFL analyst. It's not NFL entertainer. It's NFL analyst. And they look at that and they say, this guy played in the NFL. This guy is on a big time network. This guy has the title of analyst. I'm going to assume he knows what he is talking about. and then I'm going to take the points he makes and use them as correct information on a player. That is what the average person does. And you see that argument and you see them use the exact same bullshit whenever they talk football. And it makes everybody worse as fans. It makes everything worse as ambassadors of the game of football. It's a game that we love. It's a game that we bleed for and cry about and get drunk and fight and have fun. And it's something that we love the game. And it's just such a disservice whenever you have people like Emmanuel Acho that have taken their platform and used it for something that hurts the fans and it hurts the players. And
it's not just a person though relaying the message. It's the network and everything too, man. Most of it's
absolutely it's the network.
I highly doubt Emmanuel Acho is writing his own material, to be honest with you. Like, it's scripted. Like, most of those people, it's scripted.
I mean, I think there's a shot about that, but at the same time, you also have guys like Dan Orlovsky, who you think Dan Orlovsky could be handed a piece of paper and be told to go on live and tell you why Justin Fields sucks.
But there's a reason why Dan Orlovsky is a part of these shows and not the host of these shows too.
Well, Emmanuel Acho is not the host; he's a part as well.
Yeah, but I thought you were. Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, he's not like the main guy or anything, but those kind of guys are the ones that your Rex Ryans that are on television, Orlowski, people like that, who I would take more serious than what I would Skip Bayless talking about Scotty Miller.
Yeah, but like I said, you're viewing it through the lens of you personally.
But you're
not the masses. You're not.
That's really sad, but
it is very sad. That's the point we're making.
I feel like there's a lot of good material out there online. If people
there
want
are
to
some
really
understand, not even me. Not even me. There are.
Well, I know, like you
smarter than me.
I know you've taken jabs at PFF in the past, but I mean they do their research on a lot.
If you use it as a tool,
grades and stuff like that.
Everything has its uses as a tool. Everything has its uses. But if you get online and you're just quoting the PFF article to me, but you're not watching the film and you're not doing the work, then why am I going to care about what you have to say? You're not putting in the work. Like, I mean, that's fine. I'm not holding you to that standard because it's not. But if you want to get online and tell me I'm wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about, and you're not doing the work to counteract what I'm doing, like if you're putting in the work and you're getting on and you're watching film and you're breaking down games and you're charting games like quality control coaches do, and you're using PFF and you're using these other resources, advanced stats and
I think you have to anymore.
If you're using all of that and you can come at me and tell me, I think you're wrong. This is why you're wrong. Let me break it down and explain it to you. I'm more than willing to listen because I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I miss shit all the time. I'll continue to miss shit all the time.
I think to even carry a conversation in those realms right there, you can't rely on one source of material. Like PFF is not the Bible of the NFL. There's so many different avenues and so many scenarios. Like you can have the best wide receiver cornerback matchup, but it could be a team that never throws the ball. They're a run heavy offense. Like there's all kinds of different
there is, but the average fan doesn't know that. So when the average fan gets on and they hear about Tua versus Justin Herbert's a social media quarterback and he doesn't perform in the clutch and he's not able to lead his team to wins. And Tua is the opposite. Tua just he knows how to win ball games and he knows how to it's such a disservice to both of these guys because as great as Tua is, Justin Herbert is just as great. They're just great in different ways, and they're asked to do two completely different things. One guy's asked to play within a system with great weapons and utilize those guys, which he does at a very high level. And the other guy on the opposite end of the spectrum is asked to literally be Superman on a weekly basis. Those are two completely different type of situations. But what we can do is we can appreciate both guys for who they are and what they are as quarterbacks, the execution that both these guys have, instead of pitting them one against the other in the narrative of getting clicks and making money and just being more, being popular with the masses or whatever. Like, I mean, it's such a disservice to the average person, and it's such a shitty thing that goes on in sports media, which is why I can't stand. Well, that's why I don't watch TV.
I don't want to get into like my true feelings. That's media in general. It's not just sports media.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why I don't watch TV at all.
So it's to the point where if you want, in order to get real results, and like if you want to get down that rabbit hole of trying to learn something, you're going to have to do your own research. You can't go based off of.
You're going to have to learn from educated and smart people too. And if you're listening,
and I'm not saying those people are not educated or smart, because I think at one point they were like yourself and these guys.
You don't make it to the NFL
being stupid,
be bad, and be a bad
player. Absolutely not.
Regardless of how bad you think you are in the NFL, and you might not be good compared to those other guys, you're still in the top 1% of people to play football in the entire world. He knows the difference. He knows what he's doing.
Well, dude, he's a puppet. He works for the machine. Like ESPN they're owned by Disney. Like that's the point I'm trying to make here. It's not. I mean, you're talking about like, and I don't want to be the guy, but you're talking about like them making what they make compared to what people that are actually doing. It's no different than the workforce, man. Most of the people that are doing the physical lifting parts are making less money than the guy that's sitting up there. It's kind of, just has just something they want to say basically out loud. Like ESPN it's always going to be the source for the casuals, like for the normies. But then you're going to have your niche audience that's going to go out and they're going to have PFF subscription. I can't even talk anymore. They're going to go on these third-party websites that are like breaking down like how many routes people are running, like target shares, like all that stuff. And yeah, that's awesome, but they're not on the same level as ESPN and Fox. And realistically,
no, not, which is what makes my point.
Even Barstool, which is a huge company, is not anywhere close to the same avenue as ESPN.
No, which is what makes it worse, is because they have the platform to be able to be because I remember, I mean, do you remember growing up before all these hot take shows?
Yeah, I remember having music videos too, man, but we're past that point.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is it not that far away from where we were as sports fans and analysts and entertainers and whenever you would turn on a Sports Center episode and you would hear Chris Berman and all these other guys, John Madden, for NBC, and Pat Summerall, and you would hear these guys break down the game for you and explain what's happening. And, and that was what we loved watching growing up. It's what made us fall in love with the game of football. And it's the exact opposite now, where now kids are growing up and then instead of, being able to say like, well, Tua's playing really good, but so is Justin Herbert. What they're saying now is like, well, Justin Herbert's a social media quarterback. What does that even fucking mean? What does that mean?
Yeah,
he doesn't even have social media. How is he a social media? Like, it's just so it's not even just disrespectful to fans. It's so disrespectful to the players and these guys that put in the work. Like, it's so disrespectful. Like,
to counter that though, it's not just these quote unquote analysts, man. It's anybody with a keyboard too, for that matter. Like, even before First Take or Undisputed or any of these shows, as the game is going on live, there's people tweeting about how terrible somebody is and how like shitty they're playing or they're
Yeah, which
not
is why
this
opinions
guy.
like that
I mean,
don't opinions don't matter, which
it's
is
the
fine. People can have opinions. That is perfectly fine.
and
I
people
don't
have
have
a
an
voice.
I
They
don't
can
have an
speak
issue.
up.
I do not have an issue with the average person having an opinion on whatever. That is fine. The issue I have is people that are educated and have big platforms and have played the game of football having these opinions. That's completely
I can
different to
tell
me.
you right now, if you work for ESPN, your opinion don't mean shit. They want you to say what gets the ratings,
That's not. See, I don't think that's
and
true.
that's what they do.
I don't think that's true.
I believe 100% that's what's true. I believe that 99.9% of what they say on television is scripted, and it's basically for ratings. It's no different than Fox News or I'm getting way off the grid here. CNN, Fox News, man. Like 90%, if you turn on Fox News right now, it's not even talking about news. It's talking about whatever situation is towards an agenda just for ratings. Like it's all about ratings.
That's fine, but those networks also employ guys that are smart and accurate and do the work and they're able to break down the game and they're
I
able
bet
to,
if you had a sit down conversation with Emmanuel Acho, you guys would like probably be best friends afterwards because I'm sure he knows a lot about the NFL.
I would and I'm absolutely positive he does, and I'm sure we would get along great. And I have no issue with him personally as a person. I don't know him. This is
But
not
the
some,
guy that signs
this
his
is,
check doesn't give a fuck about that. They want him to go out there and make hot takes to make people go online and talk about it so they tune in next week and hear what he has to say for the next show. Skip Bayless literally talks about Baker Mayfield, who's about as irrelevant. I mean, we talked about him tonight because of his signing. He's irrelevant. He talks about Scotty Miller and all these like, dude, that's entertainment. It's not like there's no relevancy whatsoever to it.
yeah.
And I get your point, and I know that's frustrating to you, but
yeah, and that's fine whenever you view it from the lens of entertainment. That's the point. Most people don't.
I mean, that's more of a culture problem than anything else. Son.
Yeah, but you got to have people willing to stand up and change the culture, and there are guys that do that.
There's not that many that work for those.
There's not that many of them at all. But I'll say this too: if you are interested in learning more about the game of football, you are interested in possibly learning how to break down film and watch film, if you follow me on Twitter or you anywhere, you can DM me, you can text me if you have my phone number, that's fine. And I'm not even talking about me. I will put you into touch with some resources that can help you understand the game better, that you're able to learn and really just become a better overall football fan. And it makes the game so much more enjoyable to watch whenever you know fully what's going on. So you don't have to sit and break down hours of film, like some guys do and all that stuff. But if it is something that interests you in growing your knowledge in the game of football, send me a message. I'll send some resources out to you, some guys that I think highly of, and also too watch 3 Man Rush podcast. You might learn a little something every now and then.
It's very educational there.
Yeah.
I'm with you, man. I agree with you. It gets silly sometimes to the point.
Yeah, both.
But I think if you take it as entertainment, then you're on the right track. If you take it as gospel, you probably need to find a better resource on.
Yeah, so that was a long conversation, basically just to boil down to say Justin Herbert's good, and so is Tua, and that's okay. Both guys
the Dolphins win this game.
both guys can be good.
Yeah, it's okay. Just because you like one guy doesn't mean you hate the other one. It's perfectly okay to think both guys are really good at football, because both guys are really good at football.
I think that was Drew. Did you have anything that you wanted to add on that? Because I think Lane and I just kind of went off on it, and it wasn't like I agree. I do 100% agree with what you said, but I think there's a balance with that.
No, I think that there's a delicate balance that we have to realize that it's out there. Like if Justin Herbert had a offensive mind such as Mike McDaniel, and he had Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill at his disposal that were healthy all year, versus having, Brandon Staley and Joe
Gerald
Lombardi,
Everett.
who offensively have been lackluster, and then having Mike Williams out the majority of the year, Keenan Allen out the majority of the year, your starting running back also being essentially your best receiver for the majority of the year because of the injuries that you've been dealing with. It's just Herbert and Tua have not been playing on an even playing field from both a
No.
scheme and a talent standpoint in terms of the guys that they've had out there and the plays that have been called. I think on an even playing field, I think we would realize that these guys are, they're not playing. They're not playing with the same deck of cards necessarily this year.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's obvious, but that's just my opinion.
Well, there's a reason why a lot of people felt like the Chargers definitely had a shot at the Super Bowl before the season started. If that's
Yeah,
Herbert,
and that roster has not played out the way that we thought it would, and in terms of J.C. Jackson and Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, among others, offensive linemen, defensive linemen. They've been there with a lot of injuries, and for some reason, it's all Justin Herbert's fault. I really don't get all that, but
yeah.
no. Overall, I'm pretty aligned with how you guys feel about that. It's just with the headlines that Tua and Herbert have made this year throughout the season, the fact that they are matching up this weekend is just too good of a matchup not to throw on the podcast for this reason right here and for this discussion that took place. I really don't have too much to add to what you guys, discussed, other than I'm very curious now to hear how you guys have the game playing out. So who you got, Chargers or Dolphins?
Dolphins are healthier. I got the Dolphins.
It's going to be a weird one. I'm going to take the Chargers in this game.
I am too. I feel like this is a big one for them to be fighting for their playoff lives at this point.
It's a must-win.
So I think old Herbie is going to rise above and remind us why we all thought that he could possibly be an MVP candidate coming into this season. Even with that, I think it hasn't been announced yet, but I think it's still up in the air if Mike Williams is going to be back or not. But with or without Mike, I think that Herbert steps up.
He's got Keenan Allen back too. Keenan Allen's played well since he came back as well.
He's played very well. Josh Palmer has also played well. Josh Palmer been kind of underwhelming. Up to, in my opinion, up to this point in the year, considering how many opportunities Palmer had gotten based off injuries.
Yeah, there was a stretch where DeAndre Carter looked like the better receiver.
Right, exactly. But Palmer, the last few weeks, if you watch the games, he's looked really good. He's been a difference maker, and so with or without Mike Williams, I think that the Chargers is going to be a huge statement for game for them. So, granted, I had the Chargers going a long way. I had the Chargers going deep into the playoffs. I had Herbert as the MVP, so I'm a little biased. But I think that this is a huge statement game for the Chargers, and so I got them winning this game. So, the last matchup I wanted to be able to cover. So, Landon, bring us home.
All right, well, if you've been watching for 2 hours, this is one of the two shows we do weekly. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I know it was a long one, but we just like talking shit. We like talking football. Of course, naturally, as things progress throughout the year, we have two teams now that have no shots at the playoffs. So we'll be getting into some draft content, I'm sure, in short order within the next month or so. We'll get to work on that. But if you're not already following us, follow us at 3Man Rush Podcast on Twitter. Follow Drew at Drew3MR, Jared at Jared3MR. Of course, me, Landon at Landon 3MR. And then also, if you're watching on YouTube, you haven't subscribed, you haven't clicked the bell notification or liked the video, I would just ask that you please consider doing that. It would mean so much to us, so much for the channel, and just help us keep hitting that YouTube algorithm, keep growing as a channel, and we just greatly appreciate all the support everybody gives. It's been fantastic, and just ready for week 14, ready to win some money. And if you guys are ready to win some money with us, make sure you tune in Friday night. We'll be doing our live DFS show, dropping lineups for free for you. And, hopefully we all get to sit back on Sunday and win some money together. So make sure to join us on Friday night, 9:30 p.m. Central Time. We will be going live on Twitter and YouTube for the live DFS show. And outside of that, we will see you guys in a couple days.